Hey guys, what's up? Today we are making an olive oil shortbread. It's stupid simple. I'm not much of a baker, so I really like this recipe. It's really only 4 ingredients, 1 bowl and 1 baking dish, and it's done. It's super crumbly, sweet, salty. It's kind of everything you need. And I'm gonna poach some strawberries and some red wine and put that on top with a little bit of fresh basil because it's spring, right? So we've got 2 cups of all-purpose flour in this bowl. We've got 1/4 cup of sugar, 1/4 cup of cornstarch. If you don't have cornstarch, you can use rice flour. If you don't have rice flour, you probably use all-purpose flour. I think you'll be all right. We've got 1 teaspoon of salt. Give that a stir before you chuck in 3/4 cups of extra virgin olive oil. I'm using the mild right now. I like the mild in this recipe because it's nice and buttery, and a good buttery shortbread is really delicious. If you guys want to buy one of these bottles online at cobramistake.com, you can still use the code KEV35E. That's still active, I think, for a couple more days. It'll give you 35% off one of these bottles, or a couple. Okay, so really just stir to combine. It's pretty simple. Once this kind of starts to come together, what I'm gonna do is use my hands to kind of press the dough together. Okay, so that was super easy, right? So when the dough comes together, we're going to press it in, using our hands, into a baking dish. This is like 9 by 6, I think. You could use a 9 by 8 or a 9 by 4. If you're gonna use something skinnier, you're just gonna wanna bake it for a while longer. So the oven right now is at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're just gonna press this into the dish. You really don't need to butter it or oil it or put down parchment because there's so much olive oil in here that it'll release really easily once it's baked and cooled. So pressing this in to the edges, it doesn't need to be super even because it's gonna puff up a little bit when it bakes and it's gonna naturally even out, but just make sure that it's, you know, somewhat even. And then into the oven it goes. Alright, so while that shortbread is in the oven, what we're going to do is work on our strawberries. If you don't have strawberries, you can use blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, some frozen berries, or whatever fruit you want. This is 1 pint of strawberries / 2 cups. We're going to chuck it in a pan, splash of red wine, I would say about 1/4 cup, just to get it going, and then about 1 tablespoon of sugar. This is going to cook down for about 20 or 30 minutes while that shortbread is baking. The shortbread needs 40 minutes in the oven, so this is a good project to get going while it's in the oven because you want it to cool before you put it onto the shortbread. Alright, so these strawberries are perfect. They've been cooking for about 10 to 15 minutes in the red wine and sugar, and that red wine is starting to tighten up around the strawberries, and the strawberries are still intact, but they're nice and soft. This is gonna get set aside to cool, and it's gonna thicken up even more while it cools and that shortbread bakes. Alright, so this shortbread has been baking for about 45 to 55 minutes. It actually took about an hour in my oven because it runs a little bit cool. Once it comes out of the oven, we're gonna dust it a little bit with some powdered sugar and then let it cool. I really mean it, let it cool. You wanna let it cool because it's a lot of fat in here, a lot of olive oil, and it's gonna stay hot for a long time, and it's gonna help solidify it so we can cut into it. Once we cut into it, we're just gonna top it with a bit of the strawberry. Again, this is cooled at room temperature, and then a couple sprigs of basil.